Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or your parents or your relatives. Whether someone is rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both, so follow not your personal inclinations, lest you are unjust. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, took over the affairs of the Muslims on the 18th of the Hijjah, and he was martyred in his prayer niche on the 21st of the month of Ramadan. And so, the period of when he and his government reigned over the Muslims lasted only 4 years, 9 months and 3 days. Politics, or siyasa in Imam Ali alayhi salam's view, is defined as the unfaltering administration of the community. This means serving the community with everything that the government has, based on the divine criteria from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a truth-orientated movement. Everything which the government must do under the leadership of the ruler at the time must be done with the emphasis of truth being placed upon it. The Imam never approved of doing anything simply for the sake of achieving a good goal in the end. He never resorted to illegitimate or forbidden methods in order to gain a positive result, even at the cost of him losing power as a result of choosing this methodology of rulership. And as we know, gaining something beneficial through haram means is something which is not allowed in Islam. For example, if we want to raise money to build a mosque, we cannot go and commit fraud and steal money in order to get this good goal at the end. We must follow it through with hard work, even if it means that we do not attain this good result in the end, at least we have done the proper way in which we have tried to achieve it. With Amir al-Mu'mineen, even though he may have managed to achieve greater end results for his government and for the Ummah as a whole politically by committing forbidden actions, he chose never to do so. And in fact, neither him or any of the other Imams chose this method of doing haram in order to gain a better result at the end. And when explaining why he assumed the task of being in the government and ruling over people, Amir al-Mu'mineen declared that he did so for the sake of certain aims and certain goals. He took it upon himself to fulfill this role for certain reasons. Now, what were these reasons and what were these aims? There were two main ones which we will talk about today. The first one was the establishment of justice and also abolishing or getting rid of injustice. Now, if we're talking about politics, we need to distinguish between the two types of politics which are prevalent. First is the classic type of politics, which can commonly be found, as you can see in this country, across the entire world, as being evil, as being unjust, as embodied by the Umayyads, for example. And then on the other hand, we have Alawi politics, or the politics which follow according to the rules of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And according to the Alawi methodology or doctrine, politics is recognizing and employing legal instruments and administering a community and providing people with material and spiritual welfare. What does that mean? This means it is the type of politics which is concerned with helping people, with serving people, and with doing them justice. When it talks about material benefits, this can be determined or understood as providing people with wealth, providing people with jobs, providing people with food. And spiritual welfare is, for example, forbidding haram and enjoining good actions in society, such as the calling of the adhan and establishing social and community institutions to help people grow. The Alawi doctrine, or the Alawi politics, forbids using illegitimate or haram means which can be effective, but they are negative in effect. And the Imam says that this type of politics, in which people use haram actions to get good end results, is not politics at all. Rather, it is deception and it is fraud. It is classed as lying. And it is important, before we even go further to discuss the government of Imam Ali, to say something so obvious which so many people not only are ignorant of, but disagree with as well. And that is the fact that Islam as a religion is inherently a political religion. The concept of us even speaking about the government of Imam Ali alayhi salam and his leadership is in its very essence a political figure. However, some people will come and they will say that Rasulullah, for example, or the Imam, or the Ahlul Bayt, or Islam as a whole has nothing to do with politics. However, everything that we have in Islam points to the fact that our religion is a very political one, and we must hold on to this point and use it to our benefit. In my profession, when I study law, and after looking through all of the documents which are related to politics from an Islamic perspective, especially the documents which are related to the school of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, you can see that this is beyond perfection. And in fact, one of the documents which I frequently use in my job when I'm discussing with non-Muslims is the constitution or the charter of Medina as set out by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This document is a political document. It sets out the constitution and rights for Medina. And in fact, it's something which even non-Muslim historians and academics look at as an example of Islam being a political religion. And this issue can be summarized very briefly by one of the quotes from Imam Kumayl when he talks about politics and Islam. He says, when anyone studies even a little bit, or they pay attention to the rules of the Islamic government, of Islamic politics, of the Islamic society and the Islamic economy, he realizes that Islam is a very political religion. And then he goes on to say, anyone who says that a religion or deen and politics or siyasa is separate from one another is a fool. He doesn't understand either Islam or politics. So this is an important point to grasp, because we're talking about the government of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the politics of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and how we can embody this ourselves. The most important thing about Imam Ali alayhi salam's government was that from the very start, he made the attempt to promote justice. And even on the second day, when he assumed the role of the leader of the Ummah, Imam Ali alayhi salam spoke about the responsibility of bringing about social justice, and he stated that he wouldn't give special privileges to anybody. Everyone would be fair and would be treated in a just manner. He said that the people who stole plots of land, the people who stole horses, the people who stole water during the time of Uthman, he made it known that Ali will go and confiscate all of this land and take it back to the people who it belonged to, the rightful owners of it. And these words, and when Imam Ali alayhi salam started speaking these words to the people on the minbar and through his representatives, it came down like thunderbolts on the heads of some people who were very well used to stealing land, as they had done during the time period of the last three caliphs. And as a result, it turned them into the enemies of Amir al-Mu'mineen. On the third day of Imam Ali alayhi salam's rulership, people then went to go and receive their portion of the welfare and the funds from the public treasury, from the pot of money which was allocated to give to the people. And the Imam said to his notary, the person who deals with the finances, he says, start with the Muhajirun, call for each one of them and give them 3 dinars each, and then go to the Ansar and treat them the same, and then anyone else who comes to you, no matter whether they are black, white, red, treat them the same way that you treated the Muhajirun and the Ansar. And it was from this moment when people heard Imam Ali alayhi salam saying these words and giving these orders that they realized that these were not just empty slogans which the Imam promised. They saw that this fair, just system was becoming a reality in front of their eyes, and that he was very serious about it. So we established justice is the most important aspect of Imam Ali's government, and of his politics and of his rulership. And the name of Ali is so intermingled and so similar to justice that it can become intertwined. When we talk about Ali, we talk about justice, and when we talk about justice, we talk about Ali. He even gave his life in the service of justice, and he died in a position and is the status of a martyr and shaheed in spreading equity amongst people. And he, the Imam, says the following. He said, so now Allah has, by placing me over your affairs, created my right over you, but you too, as in the people, have a right over me, just like I have a right over you. And if you look today, which political leader can you see? Whether it's in the West with their imperialist, colonialist governments, or in the East with their puppet governments, which leader will come out and say, I have a right over you, but you have a right over me, so hold me account to it. This is why you very rarely find any leader who will come out with a slogan like this, and even less so will you find people who act on this as well. However, this is true justice. This is what the Alawi politics is all about. And another thing which Amir al-Mu'mineen promoted was standing with the oppressed people and fighting against the oppressors. And he used to say, "O people, support me despite your heart's desires. Wallah, I will take revenge for the oppressed from the oppressor and will put string on the nose of the oppressor." Every single aspect of the government of Amir al-Mu'mineen was about promoting justice. Now, Imam Ali had different rulers under him who he would give advice to. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave in one of his letters to Aswad, who was one of the commanders of the troops that he had, it shows the level of basira, it shows the level of justice which Imam Ali had. What Imam Ali says to this governor, he says, "If the actions of a governor follow his passions, then he will be greatly hampered in delivering justice to people. So, all the people should be equal before you, because injustice cannot become a substitute for justice. And you should avoid the things which you would not like, and do not put them upon people, as you would not like to experience this." The Imam is instructing his commanders who have positions of power not to do things which they themselves would not like, not to do things which would be detrimental to the society but would be beneficial to them. Why? Because a society and a community must be based on the respect and the mutual respect and the caring for the rights of the people. The Imam also gave some beautiful advice to Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr when he appointed him as the governor of Egypt. He ordered him to be wary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala both in public and in secret, to fear Allah, to be humble to the Muslims, and to be hard on the evildoers. He advised him to do justice to those who were under a protective covenant, to be fair to the oppressed people and to be severe to the oppressors, to pardon people and forgive them, and to be charitable as much as possible. Now, some people ask why Amir al-Mu'mineen would be given all of this advice to his governors. Surely they would be capable of governing themselves. And surely if they recognized that Imam Ali was the governor, they would follow these things anyway. However, the most simple answer to why Amir al-Mu'mineen gave these commandments, even though it may be detrimental to his position, was because that Imam Ali was 100% entirely, absolutely devout in following the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing things for the sake of Allah. Everything he did was for God's sake. Nothing was for his own sake or for his own gains. If the Imam wanted to gain something, he could have gained and ruled the same way as the other caliphs before him ruled, but he didn't. He gave everything, including his own family, in order to spread justice, in order to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Imam literally says, "Wallah, even if I am given all of the domains of the seven spheres with everything that exists underneath the skies, so that I can disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the extent of taking one grain of barley from an ant, I would not even do it." So as we mentioned, Imam Ali's entire focus and government was built on social justice. So once there were two women, and they both came to take their share from the Bayt al-Mal, which is the public treasury. One of the women who came was Arab, and the other one was non-Arab. And Imam Ali comes and he gives them an equal share of the money between them. And then an argument breaks out. The Arab woman says, "How can you give me an equal amount of money to this woman? She's not even Arab. I'm an Arab, surely I deserve more." You have to understand that at this time there were certain people in the Islamic society who were culturally backwards and still in the time period of Jahiliyyah. They didn't understand the true essence of Islam, and they couldn't bear to see natural justice taking place before their eyes. And so the women raised a complaint. She said that an Arab should not be treated the same way as a non-Arab. An Arab should have more. And at this point the Imam turned to the woman who said that, and she said, "I do not see any difference between the two of you. I do not see a difference between an Arab and a non-Arab." This is the concept of government which Imam Ali put forward. Nobody, no matter their skin color, ethnicity, what tribe they're from, which ashira they're from, doesn't make any difference. You're treated the exact same in the society. You're treated the exact same fair way in the society. And this is what we should establish to try and have in our own personal lives as well. And when Imam said that there is no difference between the Arab and the non-Arab, people began to criticize him, and people began to speak against him for it. But he didn't mind this criticism because the Holy Quran has a verse which is revealed in this regard. The Quran says, "O you who have believed, whoever of you should revert from his religion, Allah will bring forth in place of them a people who He will love and who will love Him, who are humble towards the believers, and they are powerful against the kuffar. They strive in the cause of Allah, and they do not fear the blame of the critical people around them." So we've established then that the rulership and the leadership of Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali was one that was based on pure justice and standing against injustice. And this should be the type of leadership that we as Muslims and we as human beings in general should demand from the leaders of our nations as well. And a ruler must possess the key and inherent quality of being just. And to end, I'll finish with a quote from Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, "O men, the most qualified amongst men for the caliphate or for the khilafah is he who is most capable and knowledgeable of Allah's commands." And of course, in our case, when we look to the most capable person of leading any government, we can see that this was Ali ibn Abi Talib. And tomorrow I'll continue talking about the characteristics of the government of Imam Ali and the way in which he promoted justice and equality to people. And to finish, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the mu'mineen and the mazlumeen. And for one of our brothers whose cousins were martyred in Lebanon today, please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the Shuhada in Gaza and Palestine, and also for the Shuhada Shaheed Ali Muhammad Bakr and Shaheed Ali Abdul Hassan Naim, after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.